Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Marlow Briggs in the Mask of Death. As you can tell, it's a highly introspective journey through the sea of the soul. The mighty spike of passing time doth penetrate the chest piece of humanity. Or something along those lines. It's a kind of cheap and probably rubbish action game, is what it is. A game so embarrassing that the developer isn't even listed on Steam. I have determined it might be ZootFly, who are famous for the absolute classic Prison Break, and a bunch of other stuff I can't remember. What is it? It's kind of a 10th rate God of War. And generally speaking, I'd view that as a terrible thing, but it's funny how things work out. You'll find out in a minute. Let's check the options menu. Lacking in everything. I imagine most of the budget was put into this dynamically shifting title screen. Look at all of these options. None of these are remotely useful. Video! Not a damn thing, except for 100 brightness settings. Perfect. Just what I needed. Thank God for that. 100 different settings of brightness. Couldn't even be bothered to give you a graphics option beyond resolution. Right. Well, at least it runs at 120 frames per second. That's a plus, right? It's actually kind of a plus. Separate audio sliders and subtitles, however. Jeez. You can rebind the keys. It'll let you do that. The keys are surprisingly sensibly bound, which is utterly unexpected, considering. Admittedly, if you started using the keys as opposed to the mouse and keyboard, you're probably going to get a bit confused with why quick attack and strong attack are on I and P. But most of it's logical. W, A, S, and D, mouse clicks 1, 2, and 3, and then, oh look, numbers bound to weapons. Take note, Lost Planet 3. You've been outdone by a 10th rate God of War clone. That's unfortunate, isn't it? Okay. Onward we shall go. Let's check out Marlow Briggs and the Mask of Death. See what it's all about. It's actually quite silly, and it's probably going to start me from the bit that I don't really want it to start me from, because getting to this little jungle area was quite fun. I flew upside down while attached to a helicopter. Before that, I was on a flying, flaming helipad hurtling through the skies fighting thugs. It was actually kind of fun, I've got to say. So, you are this guy, Marlow Briggs, who is now a Mayan / Aztec / Inca / whatever the hell the other things are, warrior of some sort, after being stabbed and killed by this thing on his back, which is a weapon of sorts, some kind of scythe. He was raised back from the dead by a mysterious mask, which will now be snarky to him consistently, and provides most of the comic relief of the game. Aside from that, you murder people with various Mayan powers. The Mayan powers can be upgraded, as you can see right here. So, Culacon's fangs, not fans, that would be a little bit strange. Yes, Culacon's fans are a rabbit sort. They come along, pay $120 for his show, and then leave disappointed. And then they write angry letters. It's terrible. And you use those to take over the world. That's the plot of the game. Yes. Kukuleka, that's not even, I don't even know what that is. That sounds like some kind of fried chicken place. It's a weapon. And there are 3 other weapons available, as well as 4 different kinds of magic powers. I have one of each, and they can be upgraded linearly up to 3 times. We are going to upgrade the fangs a second time. Now, interestingly enough, it then gives you combo training, which gives you experience, which is actually kind of cool. You can complete the combos for a bonus. As you can see, I have upgraded my combo there. I get a pass on that, and I actually gain some experience for it, which is pretty good. Now, moves are pretty standard spectacle fight affair. Yeah? This should remind you of things like Devil May Cry. It should remind you of things like God of War. It is certainly not as good as either of those things. Admittedly, it is a $15 title. And I do at least appreciate that they've put some effort into making the main weapon a little bit interesting. Admittedly, it handles almost exclusively like the scythe from Dante's Inferno, which I guess is to be expected to some degree, except it doesn't appear to have the extending powers that that one had. But it's got a nice little mixture of particle effect-laden combos that are relatively effective and rather amusing to pull off. So yeah, that's how it works. I do like the idea that they give you experience for actually going through the combos in this little tutorial section, because otherwise you probably wouldn't. And it's nice to be given a little bit of a reward and actually learn the moves properly. You get a decent amount of variety even with this weapon, and there are quite a few weapons available, as we demonstrated earlier. There are 4 in total, which is not that bad, honestly. Alright, shall we get on with it? Gonna grab some mana here. There are blue orbs and red orbs in the form of masks. What does that sound like to you? And yes, there are smashable things for experience. Also, not exactly the most original idea of all time, is it? Now, this is actually set in modern day, which is a little odd. How glorious is this going to be? Every now and again, they have these weird freeze frames for some reason. I don't really know why. But I'm looking forward to finding out what this is all about. It's an interesting artistic decision, I suppose. And there's giant spiders behind me. Alright. Fair enough. It's not a bad way of demonstrating it, honestly. I haven't really seen this technique used all that much before. And they don't do it badly, either. It's actually kind of cool, I'm gonna admit. It's silly, but it's kind of cool. Thankfully, you can skip all of this if you don't want to see it. Now, I've got to say, on a graphical fidelity scale, this is not exactly the best thing ever. It is not an amazing looking game, but it works fairly well, and it also runs at 120 frames per second, which means that the game itself is actually quite fluid. Pleasantly so, in my opinion. There we go. Let's bring down some fire, which apparently is totally useless, because this section really wants me to use the spirit knife. Alright, I assume it's going to infinitely respawn mana until I get the idea. Alright, so you have a couple of little ranged attacks here and there if you so desire to use them. Now, I've got to be entirely honest about this game. It is not remotely serious in any way. Its plot is awful.
Hide! We have angered Balontiku, god of the 9th level of Shibalba. He will bury us underneath the nearest ball court if he finds us.
Relax, big guy. It's just a foghorn.
However, it knows it's dreadful. It absolutely knows it's dreadful. It kind of revels in it. It's like a pig rolling around in dirt. The pig really likes it. This game really likes the fact that it's terrible. It adores it. And it actually throws you through some of the most absurd things ever. The villain is hilarious and actually well voice acted. The script writing is early 90s action movie cheese, filled with puns and nonsense. But the surprise in the writing is the mask. Yeah, this little Inca mask that you get, or Mayan or Aztec or whatever. Which is a wisecracking asshole, but it does so from the perspective of somebody that doesn't really know what the hell is going on and speaks from a kind of ancient perspective, which means that some of the humor's actually quite good. And it's very aware of it as well. There are sections where there are, quote, puzzles, and eventually the mask just gets really, really upset with you and just tells you the answer and gets horribly frustrated. Oh, it's quite silly. But not in a... Oh, oops. That didn't go well. Let's try that one again, shall we? Yes, I don't think we need to see that again. And that surprised me because I expected it to be horribly cringeworthy, but because it is totally aware of what it is, and it has no pretense of being sensible in any way, shape, or form, it actually gets away with it. And that shocks me. What it doesn't get away with is the horrible jumping animations. This is what a double jump looks like. It doesn't even make an effort to flip or anything like that. I know, I get it. Double jumping is not a thing, but it does look very, very silly indeed. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. Let's just say the animation quality of this game is not that great. Alright, let's keep going, shall we? Can we drop down there now? Will it let me? No, it's gonna keep going. The controls are a little bit weird as well. They were obviously designed with an analog stick. They work for the most part perfectly fine with keyboard and mouse, except anything that requires you to move around in 3 dimensions, say shimmying along a ledge. It might often have you holding D to move right, and then once it gets around a corner, it'll have you holding W, because that's the way it was designed for the analog stick. But aside from that, the controls actually work fine on keyboard and mouse, which again is surprising, because I would expect this game to be a horrible console port. It certainly looks like a $15 cheap arcade game, and that's kind of what it is, honestly. But it's the spectacle of the whole thing that really gets me. The combat is surprisingly competent. Is it anything special? Hell no! Is it better than God of War or such things? No, of course not. But it's competent at what it does. It's certainly better than games like Garshasp, the Monster Slayer, that attempted such things. The kind of spectacle fighter on a budget approach. But, you know, it's actually kind of fun. And I enjoy it. There's a decent variety of moves. It goes at a decent enough pace. It's quite smooth. I wouldn't call the animations amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not terrible either. It is certainly not a graphically impressive game. The texture quality is pretty poor. It looks like an early 360 title. It does run at 120 frames per second, which is nice. It does definitely feel smooth as a direct result of that, but you will see gnarly quality textures across the board. The game also has a very odd idea of how camera angles actually work and frequently screws them up as a direct result. It also loves to do the whole shaky cam thing, which I'm not so keen on. It just loves to throw your camera all over the place for no good reason whatsoever. It's kind of silly, to say the least. But, after saying all of that, it doesn't stop the game from actually being pretty fun. Cheap, budget, B-movie fun. And the way the game really shines is the absolute absurdity of almost everything it does. This is one of the most boring parts of the game. One of the best bits was, as I mentioned earlier, the whole helicopter thing, where I was on a helipad fighting, the helipad then exploded and flew through the air while on fire. I fought 5 or 6 henchmen on that helicopter for some reason. And then I was captured by a mercenary in a helicopter who then hung me upside down, and I had a section where I was dodging cliff faces with the Mayan mask cheering me on in the background. And then it dropped me into a jungle. It's just ridiculous. Utterly and completely ridiculous. And every single line of this game is just chock full of cliches and nonsense. And in most games, that wouldn't actually help it. In this game, it actually does. And it's like the only reason this game gets away with it. The only reason. Because, do not mistake me, this game is not a good video game, yeah? It offers very little new whatsoever. It offers a kind of par-the-course spectacle fighter with a few platforming sections here and there, which are certainly not strong, admittedly not frustrating either. It certainly doesn't seem to have any difficult puzzles or anything like that, which for me is fine. Nor does it have an amazing story, character development, or even progression system. But it's still actually fun, and it's refreshing to see a game that completely and totally throws any semblance of being taken seriously out the window, and it benefits from that. Shockingly enough, it really, really does. You know, every now and again, I just want to play something like this. And this game actually is competent. I'm shockingly competent at what it does. It's not great, but it kinda knows what it's doing. It understands how to make a fun spectacle fighter, even if they didn't bother to animate jumping properly, or the texture quality is lousy, or the camera goes all over the place for no apparent reason. That surprises me greatly. You know, if I were to take a game like, say, Narco Terror, which tried to do a similar thing, it failed miserably, because it kind of took itself a little bit too seriously, and mechanically it wasn't even remotely competent. That's the villain, by the way. And notice the subtitles in the background. He is consistently coming up with some hilarious stuff as he goes through this. The main villain is just awesome. Every single line he utters in this game is gold. It is 90s villain gold. It's Hans Gruber level of ridiculous most of the time. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Maybe it's just because when I was growing up, those were the kind of movies that I watched, and maybe that's why I appreciate it, but it is nice sometimes for games to be made without any sort of pretense that they are supposed to be taken seriously. I just want something ridiculous to happen, I really do. I'm hoping that it does, because this level so far has been way more boring than the escape from the what was it? It was kind of an expedition or excavation as well, I suppose. That was hilarious. All sorts of ridiculous stuff went on. We had a fight with this giant crane. We shot down 20 helicopters. We had a little ride upside down. It was quite the thing. Oh, wow, that killed me immediately. Alright, that was unfortunate. Let's just be a little bit more careful then, shall we? If you are looking for a budget experience that doesn't suck, actually, this game, funnily enough, it has no right to, but it actually doesn't suck. And that's shocking. It has no right to be half decent. No right. But it actually is. Oh no, not the bugs! Oh, that is a... What a horrible section. Who the hell put that in there? Oh my god. Oh. It's not bad. It's not bad. It has no right to be. It should be awful by all rights, but it's kind of fun. I got to admit. It is kind of fun. If you get the opportunity to buy a better spectacle fighter, like say Devil May Cry or Darksiders 2. Oh, for the love of God! Do that. Yeah, do that. You're gonna have a better time. But if you want a few hours of nonsense with hilarious cutscenes and ridiculous set pieces and surprisingly competent fighting, then you actually can't really go wrong with this. It provides all of those and then some. A lot of people are gonna call this game terrible, and I don't blame them. Because, you know, it kind of is. But it's terrible in all the right ways. It is actually terrible in all the right ways. Oh no! Come on! This section is awful. Why? Oh. Now it's breaking the fourth wall and insulting me. I'm not okay with that. Whoever invented this bit is evil. Hellspawn, as far as I'm concerned. It's an insta-kill section. Oh, man. But I am bad, so it's kind of my own fault. Will these keep spawning? Because this is going to be difficult. Okay. Alright. I think they're just going to keep spawning. Then maybe we can wipe them out with magic. Yeah. Dodge, 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 dodge. Alright. Magic. Open. Mash, 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 mash. Yes. There we go. Oh. What's also surprised me as well is that there's actually only been one QTE in the entire... You see what I mean? It is totally aware of what it is. It's saying the exact same thing that I did. It knows. It is self-aware. And that's good. If you are self-aware of what you are, when you make a terrible video game, you can actually get away with it, as long as the game isn't legitimately terrible. This is not going to win any storytelling awards. There's no question about that. But it's fun. Shockingly fun. Oh, man. I'm gonna put the trailer at the end of this, because frankly, I think you need to see it. It's really quite ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, here you go. A terrible video game that is surprisingly fun to play. I'm as shocked as you are. Oh, dear. I'll see you next time.
Rated M for mature.
When an ancient evil rises and threatens the world,
A demonstration is in order.
there's only one man who can stop it.
And you are?
Marlow Briggs. What's the plan?
If it moves, shoot it.
That's rock.
Fighting him will only make him stronger. Hurting him will only make him tougher. Killing him
Kill the boyfriend.
will only piss him off.
Rise, sacred warrior.
Briggs and the Mask of Death.